We're going to start off with the PIE meeting, EA meeting today. I'd like to call that meeting to order November 19th and welcome everybody to the discussion in the meeting today. Have a roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Jones, not present. Commissioner Koenig,
Present.
Commissioner McBride,
Present.
Chair Spencer,
Present.
and you have a quorum with 3 present and 1 absent.
Wonderful. And do I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 25th, 2024?
So move, McBride.
I second.
Approval request has been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Koenig,
Aye.
Commissioner McBride,
Aye.
and Chair Spencer.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
Thank you. Next up is resolution number 24, PIEA 499. I've got to remember to put my glasses on here. I guess it's Stephen. Are you gonna take this one?
Yeah, I will be introducing this resolution, Commissioner Spencer. So if you're ready, I'll go ahead and proceed. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Steve Davis. I'm our VP of Strategic Partnerships and Initiatives for the St. Louis Development Corporation. Today, I am presenting a resolution that seeks to approve an industrial development contract and authorize the issuance of industrial revenue bonds for an industrial project at the Cary Ave industrial site in North St. Louis City. Before I turn it over to the company, there's a couple of points I would like to make. This is an incredibly important project for the city of St. Louis. It's over $500 million investment in a new manufacturing facility here in North City, and will create roughly 153 quality jobs. And so in the room with me today, I have representatives from the company, Philip Brown and Larry Anderson, who will give a more in-depth overview of the project and of the company. But I do also want to recognize that we have our partners from Greater St. Louis, Inc. and the State of Missouri Department of Economic Development in the room as well. And I want to thank them for working with us over the past 9 months on this competitive project. The point I really want to make is, but for the incentive request being made today, these jobs and this investment, could be taking place in another city, in another state. And so specifically based on the proposal that ICL has submitted, we're requesting a real property tax abatement of 90% for 10 years with an additional 5 years at 50%, and a personal property tax abatement of 90% over 10 years. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the company, who again will provide an overview of ICL and an overview of the project. So I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Philip Brown.
Thank you, and thank you, and good afternoon. Thank you for having us today to share with you an exciting project that we are working on and excited to have in North St. Louis. I think Taylor is presenting the presentation. Can you see it online?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So if you want to go ahead and flip to the next slide. First, I want to just give you a little bit of background about ICL. Many people don't know who ICL is, even though we've been in St. Louis for over 100 years as a company. We are a large national specialty mineral company, but have roots in the St. Louis area, as mentioned, over 100 years as a company. We have been operating a manufacturing site in the South St. Louis Carondelet neighborhood that was originally built in the 1890s to make some original same products that we make today there. But we have a larger presence also in St. Louis and are looking to expand and grow that as well. But overall, ICL is about 12,000 employees globally. We'll talk a little bit about locally what we have in St. Louis and also in Missouri. But at the top line, ICL is about a $7.5 billion company. We're a public company that's dual listed on both the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange. And we operate in really every major geography around the world: North America, South America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. And we organize ourselves as a company into 4 primary divisions. The Industrial Products Division of ICL predominantly makes products that you use or interact with every day, but usually don't realize it. It primarily produces flame retardant materials that go into, whether it be the materials in your car to make them safer from a fire, or into your computer case, or even into your mattress with that tag on your mattress that says don't tear this off. They're products that make those products safer in the case or event of a type of fire. So that's the primary business of our Industrial Products Division. I run the Global Phosphate Solutions business for ICL, and that business has a number of different aspects to it, but it's a global business. But we have a North American headquarters in St. Louis, which is where I'm located, and have been for over about 16 years in the St. Louis region, originally from Texas, but have relocated to Missouri and adapted and love the state of Missouri, not only where I live in St. Louis, but also a farm we have about an hour outside St. Louis as well. And that phosphate division of ICL, we really have 2 distinctly different business units. One, food products that you eat and drink every day. Whether you think about baking powder you might use if you're preparing a baked good in your kitchen, or ingredients that would go into giving cola the zing on your tongue, whether you're talking about Coke or Pepsi or any of the cola companies, or into dairy applications as well. So a large food business. And then the other portion of the phosphate business is really focused on industrial solutions, industrial products. Our battery materials fall within that we're going to talk about today. But we also produce products that go into making safe drinking water, construction materials for building homes and industrial construction. And then we have another division of the company, Growing Solutions, that is really everything fertilizer related. So we're a large fertilizer producer as well, not only as bulk commodity fertilizers that you would see in row crops and farming, but also in specialty agriculture like ornamental turf and horticulture, greenhouses, these types of things. And then we have a 4th division that is really focused on producing potash, which is the primary potassium-based fertilizer that you would see in a typical NPK fertilizer. It's the last number on a bag of fertilizer. If you look at a bag of fertilizer and it has 3 numbers, that's the potassium content that predominantly comes from potash. Slide, please. So St. Louis, as mentioned, we've been in St. Louis over 100 years. Our original plant was built in the 1800s there. As mentioned, it produces the same product today that it used to, monocalcium phosphate, just in a very different way. Back then, with the very large prevalence of slaughterhouses in St. Louis, they were recovering and recycling animal bones to recover the phosphate and the calcium out of them. Today, we make a product with that calcium and phosphate there that's a leavening baking powder, but in a very different way than with animal bones. But we employ about 335 people in the local St. Louis region, and have what we believe a very nice, attractive, good job base for the local community. Our average income for our employees is about $113,000 a year. That includes a little over 100 union jobs that we have, where we pay over a little over $40 an hour as our typical or average union hourly wage rate as well. And you can see as well from a Missouri sales tax perspective about $500 million going in there. Just to give you a little more idea from our footprint in North America, as a company globally, we have over 50 manufacturing sites. We have 7 of those in North America, 1 currently today in South St. Louis and Carondelet. But in St. Louis, we also have a large R&D center where we're doing R&D and application work for our customers and new applications. And we have a North American headquarters, which is really the second hat I wear for ICL. I'm their managing director for North America and take care of their headquarters location as well, that provides service and support for every function you can imagine to those 4 different divisions in anything that they do in North America. And then you can see our other footprint spread across California, Illinois, Indiana, South Carolina, Alabama, West Virginia. And as mentioned before, this project was originally targeted to be in our South St. Louis location, in our existing Carondelet facility. And as we started into the engineering work on the facility, it became apparent to us that the site was not ideal to house the project from a space perspective, and also the geotechnical characteristics of the underlying land as well was not very suitable to a large industrial development there. And so we started the process to look at other areas that we could site the facility, including looking at our other footprint in North America. And very happy that we're here today to talk about keeping this investment and growth in St. Louis. St. Louis is a great location for us, as mentioned, with the kind of center of gravity we have here with our headquarters and our R&D centers as well, and looking forward to adding a 4th location in North St. Louis to that footprint as well. Just a few more facts. I won't go through all of these. You can look at the slide as mentioned, about 335 local employees. Steve mentioned we're looking to add a little over 150 new jobs as a result of this manufacturing plant and investment that we'll be making here. Today we have about a $38 million payroll in the local St. Louis area, plus additional contribution of a little over $10 million of company paid benefits to those employees as well. So on a fully loaded basis, the employees adding another $10 million to that. And another thing that I would probably highlight of these facts here that we're very proud of and like is that one, the company does company matching with charitable contributions, but we don't just do it in monetary. We want our workforce, and they absolutely are engaged in the local community. And so what we do is we take the hours that they spend volunteering in local organizations, and then we put a monetary value on that and match that in dollar value to their time that they spend supporting the local communities as well. I want to talk just a little bit briefly about what types of jobs that the facility will bring to the region. So one is mentioned, about 100 manufacturing jobs, good paying manufacturing jobs with over $40 an hour wage rate, but also the supporting functions that go along with that of accountants and HR professionals and lawyers and R&D scientists to support the facility, the applications, and the overall business. And also want to share with you that we have a great partnership today with local universities in the state of Missouri, whether that be S&T or whether that be University of Missouri, where we found, in our industry, a lot of our industry is along the Gulf Coast regions of the U.S., and many of the big universities that recruit and pull people to those industries have a stronger pull to bring them there, and had challenges. We started this program, maybe 15 years ago. We started partnering with S&T and University of Missouri, and found that we could get extremely good talent from the local universities, but also that we found people who were from the region and the area and wanted to stay in the region, in the area, which has provided a huge benefit for us from a tenure and longevity with our employees. So we start with co-op programs and internship programs and new hire programs for those degrees out of those universities, and are able to maintain and retain those people in our organization for a significant period of time, which we find to be absolutely great. Next slide, please. So talking a little bit about the sites and the projects a little more specifically now. So you may hear us mention or talk about the site with a couple of different addresses. It's in the North St. Louis area near the riverfront industrial area. It is bordered by Cary Avenue and Adelaide. On the other side, I think it also gets listed as a 3rd Street address as well. But when we started looking for a site that would be suitable after we determined our Carondelet facility would not be, this was one of the few sites that we found that really met all of the criteria that we wanted and needed for the site. One, from a space and industrial zoning standpoint, we needed quite a large space of almost 20 acres to develop the facility on, but also infrastructure-wise with power, electrical power close by with good capacity to serve the facility, rail access for raw materials into the facility. So it is a site that we're very excited about and to develop in that North St. Louis corridor along the river. And let's talk just a little bit briefly about what is LFP, all kinds of acronyms here. So the material that we are intending to produce there is a ingredient, if you will, a material that goes into producing a lithium-based battery. So if you read or see anything, there's lots of things in the news about lithium batteries and the evolution of battery and battery technology. What we're talking about here in its simplest form is the cathode of a battery. So if you go back and think about a battery with a positively charged thing and a negatively charged thing, and then electrolytes that move the electrons between the two poles, we're talking about the positively charged side of the battery. So the material that would go into building a cell that is the positively charged product or chemical that's going into that battery. We're not going to produce batteries themselves. We're not going to be producing cells or packs. We'll be producing really, if you looked at the material, it's a gray powder material that gets put into the battery. And why are we excited about LFP? A couple of different reasons why we're excited about LFP. One, today there is no one manufacturing lithium iron phosphate outside of China. So I think it's a great opportunity for the U.S. and for Missouri and St. Louis to be in the forefront of that. This will be the first commercial manufacturing plant for this material, predominantly outside of China. Today there's one small facility, really a pilot you would call it, in Europe. A few startup companies looking at it also across the U.S. But the secondary is that LFP, from a performance standpoint, compared to many different acronyms, we can talk about NMC batteries, LCO batteries, we could get lost in all the jargon there, but the main difference to think about of an LFP battery versus, say, an NMC battery, which would be probably the most common lithium battery type today in an EV or an energy storage application, is we're using very readily available materials. So nickel and manganese and cobalt are all, let's say, relatively rare earth metals that are not prevalent. In this case, we're using iron, which we build all kinds of things out of, very readily available raw material. And then phosphate, which is our core business. We are a large global phosphate company and back integrated into that mineral as a company. And the other is that LFP, in that nature of its chemistry, not only much more readily available and more cost effective, but provides a much safer profile when a battery is created with it than an NMC battery. So if you read in the news these fires about an EV, that they typically would have had an NMC battery in them. And many of those metals are flammable. They're burnable metals like nickel and cobalt and those things. They actually can be flammable as a metal, so which contributes to their potential for a thermal runaway. Whereas iron is a very stable metal. As we know, we build all kinds of things out of it, buildings and other things, because it is a very safe structural material. And it performs and brings that similar type of characteristic to the battery that is produced with a cathode made out of LFP as well. So a little bit more about the project itself. As mentioned, a couple of different addresses. I think the official maybe is the 5401 3rd Street address for it. The current ownership is North Riverfront Investors. We are very close, actually, I believe, if all goes well, we will be actually closing on the physical property as well this week on hopefully Thursday. Currently, the land is vacant. Had been used really to move some of the construction debris from other sites around the area that had been developed. We'll be cleaning that off. Actually, we'll be reusing much of it. Much of it is just rock and concrete and things that we can actually bring on site a crusher and crush that material and turn it into aggregate that can be used in the construction process on the site. So again, it's about a 19-acre plot. Zoning is for the suitable industrial commercial use, and really does provide us good truck access off of the interstate there, and also good rail access and utilities. Next, just a little bit about the plans that we have around battery materials. So one, when we moved into this area and made the decisions to move into it, not only are we looking at the commercial side, but as part of the process of qualifying customers and applications, we have already constructed, actually we're in the final stages of construction of about a $30 million investment at our Carondelet plant in South St. Louis. That is essentially, you can think about it as a mini version of the industrial commercial facility that we're looking to build in Cary Avenue. And it allows us to qualify our future customers, but it also allows us to do innovation work with those customers as well. So when we talk about an OEM company or an EV company or an energy storage company, that we can work with them to innovate and work on not only LFP, but new battery materials. And then as mentioned, we're talking about a little over $500 million investment into the commercial facility to produce about 30,000 metric tons of this material. That ultimately the next step in the value chain as this product goes to a cell manufacturing plant or a gigafactory. You might hear sometimes in the media or things where they would actually take this material, incorporate it with the anode, with the electrolyte, and actually form a cell that ultimately goes into a pack, making the battery. One of the other secondary great benefits about LFP is not only is it attractive for EV, but is extremely attractive material because of its characteristics for energy storage. So a good portion of this in our customer base are energy storage companies who are building energy storage facilities for solar farms and wind farms and alternative power generation, where you need a buffer storage between generation and the grid. As mentioned, we talked about the long-term employees that we will employ here, but in that construction process to construct about a $500 million facility, we'll need over 1,000 construction jobs over the course of that construction that we'll be working with the local contractors union to supply that labor force as needed to the construction process. As well, we did not mention, but we will in the end, this is a project that's also partially funded by the Department of Energy as part of the Infrastructure Act, and so already has a very robust plan around diverse and minority suppliers that fits very well into the city's requirements as well. They align very well with the DOE requirements also as well. So here you can see a little bit more of the overall breakdown of the current estimation of the project. When we talk about the project in an engineering life cycle, we have things we call FEL stages of engineering. We've passed through what we call FEL 0, FEL 1. We are finalizing FEL 2 at the moment. We'll finish FEL 3 detailed design in the first quarter of next year, which then puts us into the construction phase of beginning to construct the overall facility. You can kind of see a little bit of the breakdown of where the costs come into the facility as well. You can see the funding from the Department of Energy of about $197 million coming into the project as well. And as mentioned, we're here with part of the team from the Missouri Department of Economic Development as well, who is supporting the project through the build program. We're happy to present this to you today and here to ask or answer any questions you may have of us related to the project.
Well, Mr. Brown, I really appreciate the time that you took to go through this presentation with an investment this large. There's obviously a lot of questions, and I think you hit on a lot of the high notes there. You know, I'm not an early adopter, but I am an adopter of EV vehicles, and you know, outside of putting pressure in my tires, I hope not to go to many more gas stations in my life. So I'm excited to see this project being presented today, and I wanted to offer up the opportunity for some specific questions from my other commissioners.
Absolutely. Thank you for your support, and we're happy to answer and talk about any details you would like to with the project. Like I said, we're extremely excited about it. I think it's a great step for our country and a great step for St. Louis and Missouri as well. And happy that we've come to a point where both have been very, very helpful and beneficial in making sure that this project does stay in Missouri and St. Louis.
Before I move on to Commissioner McBride, I did want you to maybe speak to the maybe the support that you had from SLDC, the state, any economic development grant programs, and maybe just confirm the Department of Energy's $197 million investment is secured.
The investment is secured from the Department of Energy. As mentioned, that came through the form of a grant from the Infrastructure Act. It actually results in a binding contract and agreement between ICL and the government. It has actually been up and running now for a little over a year. So they have already, not only it works in a cost share mode where we submit our expenses and get a percentage reimbursement of those. That's been up and running, and the DOE has already to date invested a little over $6 million into the engineering costs and preparation of the project.
Thank you. Commissioner McBride?
Oh, thank you. First of all, is there anyone else presenting on this resolution aside from Mr. Brown?
The next presentation would be the financial incentive analysis from Zachary Wilson's team.
Okay, great. All right. So, great. Mr. Brown, let's see here. I just wanted to confirm. So the existing facility down at Carondelet with the 300 employees and change, that's going to remain open during, well, going to remain open into the future, correct? This isn't going to cannibalize that?
That is absolutely correct. This is all incremental investment in new products and new technology beyond what that facility in Carondelet is doing that will continue to grow. We have growth plans for that Carondelet facility as well. As mentioned, we put our pilot plant there, an innovation center there, but today that plant focuses primarily on our food industry, and we still are growing that as well.
Thank you. And what's I think we have around projected 22 engineers, scientists, et cetera, included in the 153 new jobs. What's the pay scale or rough pay range for those employees?
Yeah, those typical jobs, if you look at our overall average, it comes in around 113, as mentioned, including our hourly and professional roles as well. Those tend to be 100 to 125 kind of starting range roles on the professional side of things for us.
Okay, and they were included in the average you gave us previously. Okay, understood.
That is correct. That includes the average
and I don't know
our entire employment base.
Great. And I don't know much about the phosphate that we're going to be manufacturing there. Are there any safety issues or anything that we need to be apprised of in that regard?
So if you will, on the phosphate side, no, phosphate is a very ubiquitous product that you eat and drink every day. Iron, we're all also very familiar with. The third component that goes into it is lithium. Lithium, there are some precautions you have to take around handling lithium. They're well-defined precautions that go into that. It's a material that has been in use in the battery industry for a number of years. Matter of fact, in our work with the EPA on what's called a SNUN, Significant New Use Notification, since this will be the first time this product has ever been manufactured at a commercial scale in the U.S., we go through a very rigorous analysis and evaluation of that. We are with them at the moment. We actually did the original application to be able to have trial production of that product 10 plus years ago with the EPA, and have a great working relationship with them, and with our work that we've done from the pilot scale to the commercial scale, incorporating a number of new technologies and advancements that even significantly improve the ability to manage lithium as well.
Outstanding. And that lithium, that's coming from outside the U.S., or is that also here in the
U.S.
U.S.?
So our intention is to be producing at least currently today, an IRA compliant material. We'll see how long the IRA remains and if there are any changes related to it. But the target of this facility is to produce a product that is based on 100% sourced materials from the U.S. So the lithium sourcing is here from the U.S. for this facility. It is not a material we're back integrated in. We purchased that material. The others we're back integrated in. But in this case, it is a North American producer.
Very good. And then it's going to be shipped out via what, rail and truck, or what are methodologies in that regard?
Yep. So most of the incoming raw materials come in via rail. So the phosphate source comes in via bulk rail. It's a liquid. The iron comes in as a packaged material, what we would call a super sack in our industry, which is about 1,000-pound packaging container. Similarly with the lithium. And then the final end product leaves via truck out of the facility. So mostly rail in, and then outbound out to the end customer really is, as I said, a cell manufacturing site where they would be actually taking this material and incorporating it in to make the actual battery cell, and that shipment will be done via truck, which is another advantage of the location being right off of the interstate as well. So it gives us good access on both sides, both incoming raw materials via rail and then outgoing finished goods via truck. And we're not finalized yet, but we are studying as well potential opportunities that some of the construction equipment is quite large, and one of the ways you can build the plant, not to get too technical, is what we call modularization, where you build the facility in sections, if you will, and potentially transporting some of those sections down the Mississippi River and being able to unload those very close nearby the site as well. That might provide a significant advantage.
Very good. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McBride. Commissioner Coning? You have some question. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Anderson or Mr. Brown? I'm sorry, I'm getting confused by what's
I should have clarified
online.
that. Yeah. I believe he's using Mr. Anderson's computer, maybe.
Okay, Mr.
Yeah, I
Brown.
log in. It was sent to me by Mr. Anderson. Sorry about that, but yes, I'm Mr. Brown.
That's okay. Are there any waste byproducts involved in the manufacturing of this powder, and how will they be managed?
So actually, it's one of the great things, and we do today with our Carondelet facility. So it's another benefit of the product of LFP. All of the materials are recyclable. So if there are materials in the process that are generated as a byproduct or even off-spec material, those things, phosphates, not to get too deep into the chemistry, are all recyclable. You can bring them back to their starting base raw materials, essentially their 3 building blocks, and start over again. And that's something we do today in that Carondelet facility as well. So we don't have phosphate discharge waste stream from that process, and this process is designed in a similar way. And actually,
Okay,
we are
great.
it's early stages, but we are actually looking at as well, obviously, as the industry develops, because of that great nature as well, LFP-based batteries will be much more conducive to recycling at end-of-life battery than some of the other battery types out there today, where maybe in an NMC battery or something, they're only capturing one of the very valuable metals out of that mixture because it's difficult to separate them and recycle their individual components. That's not the case with LFP.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Brown. It's official now. Well, I just got to say thank you so much for giving us such a comprehensive overview of your project. And I mean, it's checked so many boxes, not only for, investing in our city, which is so important, but, improving our country's competitive position in a value chain, as well as, progressing environmental targets. So I'd love to hear it. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thanks to both commissioners for your input, questions, and commentary. Wonderful to hear. Before we move on to the SLDC reports, I had a question about public comments, and I'd like to defer to our attorney. Mrs. Finley, I believe, is in the SLDC plan room there.
Yes, regarding public comments for this meeting, members of the public are able and welcome to submit statements in writing. However, there is no public comment portion of this meeting.
Thank you. So who should we go with first? Is it the fiscal analysis or the scorecard? You want to do the scorecard first, Andrew?
Yep, I can do that. Zach, you want to say anything first, or should I just go for it?
Go ahead. Mr. Malley.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, hopefully you see the presentation. So, okay, great. Okay, so we end up with a score of 46, so that's tier 2 and makes the project eligible for the 15-year abatement that is being offered. Just as usual, go right down the line. So it is located in Economic Justice Index Area 3, so 10 points for its location. Talked a lot about the jobs, so 153 full-time jobs expected to be created, which is well over the top threshold for the most amount of points you can get in the job creation category. So 9 points for this massive investment, $526 million. Again, highest point total in that category, 7 points. Talked a little bit about the wages as well. So all the jobs are expected to be 62 on up to 131K without benefits, and then quantifying the benefits expected to be well over $100,000. So, clearly very high paying jobs, all quality. 5 points for that. It's advanced manufacturing, as has been discussed, 5 points for that. It is located within our North Riverfront Employment District. So we're creating jobs in one of our employment districts, 5 points for this. There is a bus stop nearby, so some public transit access, 3 points for this. And the large source of outside funding in the federal clean energy funds to supplement this project as well gives it another 2 points. So a lot of benefit, clearly, in a high scoring project. If there are questions, happy to answer them.
Any questions from the court commissioners?
Not this time.
No questions.
Thank you. Do you want to hand it off to Jake?
Yeah, Jake, I can control the PowerPoint if you'd like.
If you can just go to that.
Teamwork. Yeah.
There we go.
So the way that we kind of modeled this real estate program is 240,000 square feet of industrial space. The project also includes another 83 million in manufacturing personal property. So taken together, there's kind of three sources of tax revenue for this. The primary one would be the increase in real property taxes. The site currently has base taxes of $23,000 annually. We'd expect that to increase to about 89,000 during the 15-year real property tax abatement phase, and about $420,000 after the abatement term is over. There's also payroll and earnings taxes on the 153 jobs. So that works out to a total annual payroll of a little under 13 million, which would generate payroll and earnings taxes of about $194,000 a year. And then there's about $100,000 worth of personal property taxes on that $83 million manufacturing investment. That is during that 10-year, 90% abatement period. We have a total fiscal benefit to the city of $2 million over 10 years, increasing to a little over $5 million for 20 years, and fiscal benefit to the schools $400,000 during the first 10-year period, increasing to a little under $3 million over 20 years. The combined net present value of the two abatements is at $8.2 million, nominal value of $11.4 million. The 406 million worth of hard costs work out to minority-owned contracts of about 98 million, and contracts for women-owned enterprises of 44.7 million. We generated a developer return on this that is, I would say, deeply negative. This is kind of a quality of our model in general, and something that we have touched on previously, certainly with owner-occupied properties, but also manufacturing properties as well. Just kind of a refresher on what's going on here. Our developer return analysis is based only on the real estate, and this is a good example of where cost does not equal value. So our model is looking at this as 240,000 square feet of manufacturing space on the north side and generating an estimated market value at year 10 for what that could be sold for. In this case, given significant amount of federal investment and kind of unique qualities of this project in general, you know, the user would not sort of build this, stabilize it, and then sell it at market value for in 10 years. That's just sort of not the approach here. But we have, you know, a lot of community benefits that Andrew touched on as well, lots of job creation. So that's one of the good things to point to here. But I'm happy to answer any questions on the financial side.
Yeah, can you put up the graph? There we go.
Thank you. I guess let me start by, I guess I'll just start with, I think this property, based on the resolution, has been vacant for 15 years or longer. So we're basically just getting the land property tax back to the city. So I think any development on vacant land typically is good development. Jake, one question that I had reviewing the revenue impacts from other taxing districts. Could you explain that a little bit in more detail?
Yeah, so the two primary taxing districts would be the school district, which collects, I believe it's 58 or 59% of property tax revenue. The city collects a little under 20, and then the remaining balance is spread across, I believe, 9 smaller taxing districts. So that would be community college, senior services, zoo museum, etc. So rather than giving you a dozen summary boxes on the right side, because all of those other taxing districts are relatively small, we just sum them all together.
And Jake, did you do any analysis on how long a facility like this may be in operation?
Not particularly. Mr. Brown may be able to speak to that. I will say that we use a very long depreciation schedule on the personal property, longer than we typically would. So that's actually, your personal property taxes revenue is actually decreasing over time slightly as those assets depreciated, but theoretically, presumably more assets bought at some point as well. So that line would bump back up.
Do the commissioners have any question on the financial impact report?
And Jake, this accounts for this state incentives that were discussed at the top of the presentation?
The Missouri Build Award, yes.
Are there, and are you aware of, and I guess Mr. Brown, this goes to you as well, are there any further incentives that are going to be requested from the city of St. Louis?
No, there are not.
That's all I have, thanks.
I don't have any questions. Very clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Oh, one other point, it's the funds coming from, there's private debt and then there's funds from the company. Has that private debt been secured so far? And I know we saw it in the schedule and I appreciate having that in the presentations. Thank you.
Yeah, and at this point, actually, there is no private debt going into it, so it is all 100% funded, other than the DOE portion by the company.
I guess my last question is, there's no additional incentives tied to this particular parcel?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you. All right, I think we're probably at a point where we can take a vote. Do I have a motion regarding this resolution?
Motion to approve resolution 24 PAA 499.
I second that.
Resolution has been properly moved and seconded. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Koenig,
Aye.
Commissioner McBride,
Aye.
Chair Spencer.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
Thank you very much. Is there anything on the open agenda?
Chair, before we go any further, can you just, Olivia, can you tell the public, the email where we can send public comments, please?
And
Sure.
before-
It would be appropriate if people have comments to forward them to the general SLDC email, which would be sldc@stlouis-mo.gov.
Notification that President Richardson, would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on that statement to ensure that the public have the opportunity to send in those emails and have the appropriate address. The other piece around this project I wanted to highlight and want to commend ICL for their investment into the St. Louis area. Again, expanding our footprint of advanced manufacturing jobs, expanding our work that we're doing to attract these jobs. As you all noted, that SODC and LCRA has invested into the Monarch on MLK, which will provide workforce training for jobs in the advanced manufacturing industry. Again, continuously working with AMIC, the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center, their efforts about research and development. And this just adds to the footprint in North St. Louis City around those manufacturing industrial jobs, noting the $180 million investment, just close proximity to this project from Procter & Gamble. So continuing again to see the investment happening, the momentum going in the city of St. Louis to drive manufacturing jobs forward, aligning with our Economic Justice Action Plan and Greater St. Louis's 2030 Jobs Plan. So I just wanted to make that quick announcement that, again, those plans are moving forward as people are asking, how are we making momentum and action on these plans? This is a premier example of that. I want to commend all of those that worked hard to keep this project in the St. Louis region, noting that this was a pretty competitive process. So thank you, Chairman Spencer, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, President Richardson. I'm assuming nothing on the open agenda. Is that correct?
Nothing more. Thank you.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, McBride.
Second.
We are adjourned and we can move on to LCRA. Thank you.
And good luck to
Thank you,
ICL.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if we could say a quick thank you to all involved in helping us support this project with the state, with the city, with Greater St. Louis. As you mentioned, it was a competitive process, and I will tell you that your teams represented you extremely well compared to other states that we were working with. So thank you.
Thanks for that.
Good to hear. Thank you.